Hi everybody, this will be part 30 in the character rigging tutorial series. In this video we're going to talk about how to create set driven keys as in controls for the fingers. So the previous videos we set up controls for much of the rest of the body except for the fingers. What we could do is come in here and create more forward kinematic controls just as we've done for the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, the spine joints, and much of the rest of the body, but that would create a lot of smaller individual controls here. So what we're going to do instead is use a different way to create controls, and this is called using set driven keys or SDKs. What we're going to do is create custom attributes on this main wrist control that allow us to be able to animate subparts of the body. We'll actually create a secondary control back here for the finger controls that will follow what the wrist does instead of putting it on the wrist there. So that way we could do forward kinematics on the arms and inverse kinematics on the arms. So this is definitely a way that we can combine multiple ways to animate different very smaller parts of the body into kind of like sliders. So basically we're going to have a 0 to 10 slider. 0 will be neutral position as what's shown here. 10 will be, we'll take all these finger joints and curl them in. So we'll do a finger curl for the hand. So this video will showcase how to do one hand, and then you can replicate this on the other hand. This is not something that can be mirrored over. You have to do this manually. So a set driven key is like a slider that can be moved around and it animates another object, drives the motion of another object. So they're called set driven keys because we have a driver, which is an attribute or one control that determines what something else does motion wise, and then we have a driven. So the driven is what is animated, the physical attribute or part of the body that moves or animates when the driver changes its value. So I'm going to create a circle down here, new control. We'll move it up and scale it up some. There you go. All right, I'm going to snap this to the center of my wrist, something like that. Move it back. And this is just going to be a control that kind of follows with the wrist, but I'm only going to use this for custom attributes. So that'll work right there. Let's change the shape of it a little. So let's make it into like a 4-point star or something like that. So I'm going to take the control vertices, right click and control vertex, and then I'm just going to scale these in. So we'll do a 4-point star for the wrist. Maybe we'll move it closer back. Oops, put it back in object mode. Maybe we'll move it like right here. That'll work pretty good. Right behind the wrist somewhat. There you go. All right, so this will be our control right hand. Oh, this is a left hand actually. Control left hand. Getting ahead of myself. All right, so we're going to duplicate this, and we're going to call this one control right hand, and we'll come back and make a copy of that. Do the same thing on the other side for the right hand. But this demo will just show the left hand. We are only going to use this to select this and then animate the fingers or the carpal bones or whatnot, something like that. So this is definitely something that can be easy to create, but it's a step process of how the set driven keys should be built. So just to kind of make it easier, I'm going to move it over here so it's kind of in line with the angle of the wrist control. I like it right there a little better as well. All right, so we're going to go edit, delete by type history. Then I'm going to go to modify, freeze transformations. Okay. Now, I don't want to be able to move or rotate or scale this control, so I'm going to hide those attributes and lock them here in a second. But first, I'm going to make this control move and rotate whenever the wrist joint moves and rotates. So with the wrist joint selected first, I'm going to then shift select the control left hand, and then I'm going to go to constrain and we'll do parent. We'll do make sure maintain offsets turned on. There you go. So what that means is the translate rotate of the control are going to be driven by whatever the wrist joint does. Okay. So if I come over here and rotate the elbow, that control will follow. Okay. So I'm never going to need to move or rotate or even scale this control. So we'll come back in a later video and lock and hide all of the other attributes on the body that we do not need. But this is a good starting point in understanding, well, we don't ever need to move, rotate, or scale this control. I'm just going to add custom attributes to this. So we're going to do the parent constraint so it follows what the wrist does, wrist joint. And then with this control selected, I'm going to drag select over translate, rotate, and scale. And right click. And the first thing I'm going to do is choose lock selected. So there's no way that I can ever accidentally animate or move this. That puts a gray box beside it. And then I'm going to right click and choose hide selected. Okay. So that makes it so that I can't ever see or adjust the translate, rotate, or scale attributes. It makes them hidden and locked. Now this should still work with the body. So if I move and rotate the elbow, you can see that my wrist or left hand control works properly. It just makes sure that I can't ever move, rotate, or scale it, and it's also hidden, so there's no chance that an animator standpoint of view will ever be able to see and adjust that. So I still want to be able to turn the visibility on and off as I need to, so I usually keep visibility on. So we've removed out those translate, rotate, and scale visibility attributes. They're still on the object, we just have it so we don't have the opportunity to adjust them. So what I'm going to be doing is adding custom attributes for how the fingers in the hand can animate. And these are going to be kind of like slider attributes. So to do this with my control left hand selected, I'm going to go to modify and we'll find add attribute. Okay. So this is the add attribute window, and what this is going to do is add custom attributes. Where this has visibility, it's going to add another custom attribute underneath that, and we're going to determine what we do with it. There's a lot of ways we can set up custom attributes, but I'm just going to do a simple 0 to 10 slider for each one of these as an example. So we're going to do one for each of the fingers curl. We will try to do finger spread. We will do each of the 3 directions that the thumb can rotate. And then we'll also do carpal bones. There's other things that we can do, such as finger twist let's see, I think that might be it. So I think we've covered everything. All right, so we're going to start, and I'll try to add them in sequence of how I'm going to use them. So we will start with the fingers curl. So we'll do pinky curl, and I'll title it however I want this to be named over here in the channel box. This is going to be a 0 to 10. Now my fingers can actually bend backwards a little bit, so I might want to curl them back a little. So instead I'm going to choose -5 to 10. We'll try that. Maybe we'll do -5 to 15. We'll increase the value a little bit. Now this is not going to directly correspond to how much we are rotating that finger. So we'll do pinky curl. We're going to leave it as a float, -5 to 15. All right, we'll do add. Remember what we chose there. So that adds pinky curl, and now we have a slider option between -5 and 15 there. Should all go all the way to -5. Yep, there you go. And as default, it was 0. So with this control selected again, we're going to do all the other fingers. So we'll say ring curl, and we'll do -5 minimum, maximum 15, default 0. So that adds ring curl. We will do middle curl, -5 to 15. And we'll do pointer curl, -5 to 15. I like to try to put everything with the individual fingers together first. So we can also do all curl. That'll be all fingers curling. So we'll also do maybe -5 to 15 here as well. So that way we can set up all the fingers curling at once. We will do a pinky twist. Maybe that would just be a -5 to 5 because we don't have a huge twist that the fingers can do. So we'll roll through each one of these. I may not go back and do the set driven keys for each one, but these are all the major ones I would do for the fingers. Ring twist, -5 to 5, middle twist, -5 to 5, pinky ring middle pointer twist, -5 to 5. And I can do individual finger spread, but let's just do an all spread right now. And we'll do, not going to be too much of a spread, so let's just do -5 to 5. That'll be fine for now. All spread. Okay. All right, so let's do the thumb, and then we'll do carpal as well. So we have thumb curl. We'll do -5 to 15 again. We'll do thumb spread. We'll do, I don't know, try to increase it more, -10 to 10 to like a 20 value change there. All right, then we're going to do thumb reach. Okay. Maybe we'll do a -10 to 10 there because we want it to go both ways. Thumb reach. All right, so we'll also do carpal curl as well. So that's when like these joints will start to rotate. As far as the pinky ring and middle will curl down so that we can touch like the pointer to the, or thumb to the pinky. So maybe we'll do, once again, -5, -5 to 15. We'll keep with that. That's fine. All right. So we have a lot of attributes here. Some of them are going to be different sliders as far as the values. There's more that we can do, but those are some of the major ones for the fingers that we can create here to add more individual motion. So with all of those individual actions, I could have an individual forward kinematic control that rotates or orients that joint for every joint. That would actually be a lot of joints. So instead, for pinky curl, I'm going to be able to use this control and this set driven key or this custom attribute to rotate both the, or all three of these, 1, 2, and 3 joints at the same time. So with one slider, I'll be able to create a motion like that for that entire finger. All right, so what we are doing is we create a custom attribute on whatever control we're going to use to drive the motion, and then we're going to come up and apply this to our set-driven key window. All right, so we're ready to start doing the set-driven keys. So set-driven keys is underneath the animation module. If we go to the animation module, it's under key and set-driven key, and we're going to go to the box beside it. Okay, there you go. So here's our set-driven key window. I'm going to have this open over here on the left. And with this control selected, this is going to be the driver. So basically these attributes that I've created are going to drive the motion of the finger joints. So this is going to be load driver. With my control selected, I'm going to click load driver, and that's going to show me what the control selected or object selected, and then any attributes that I have to be able to keyframe. All right, so the driven is going to change per each command here. So we're going to do pinky curl, get on this side, and the driven is going to be pinky 1 joint, pinky 2 joint, and pinky 3 joint. So I'm going to select all 3 of those and do load driven. You can actually drive the motion of multiple objects this way. So what this set driven key command is going to do is whenever I animate the pinky curl attribute, I'm going to then tell the joint pinky 1, pinky 2, and pinky 3 to rotate when I animate the pinky curl. So it's basically like a slider or like a marionette puppet string that can rotate it. What I'm going to do is, just to make sure everything works properly, is select all 3 rotate X, Y, and Z. So from the driver is my control, and I'm going to select the individual attribute that I'm going to set keyframes for. And then the driven are my individual joints, ones that are actually going to animate. And then I'm going to select the specific attributes that I want to key. Right. So set-driven keys, we are going to be creating keyframes, but it's not in the timeline. This is actually in the set-driven key editor. So these attributes and joints can still be animated in the timeline, but these are controls set up in the set-driven key editor. So we're not actually creating the keyframe. We're not going to use the S key. We're going to use a key button in the set-driven key editor. So these are called SDKs. So basically we have to load the driver, load the driven, and then select the attributes that will connect to each other. All right, so as default, my pinky twist is set to 0, which is my neutral standpoint. So we're going to go ahead and create a key, 0 with my finger in its default pose. Okay, so key. If you look at the individual joints that are the driven, they have like a middle gray blue box beside those attributes now that tells you, hey, these are set driven keys. Okay, so now on my control, I'm going to go, let's move that forward. So let's put that to 5. What did I do? -5 to 5, that's fine. So we'll type in 5 here. You could also click on the name and in the viewport, middle mouse click and drag left to right, and you can see that slider's changing over there. So let's put that to 5, which will be fully rotated. And then when that attribute of the pinky curl is set to 5, I'm going to get those 3 joints and rotate them so the finger's curled. Good, that's pretty good. So when the pinky curl is set to 5, whoop, not pinky twist, pinky curl. Make sure we do that properly. Pinky curl to 5. Now we're going to go back and reset or rotate. That's why you got to make sure you're have the right attributes selected. All right, there you go. When pinky curl set to 5, my 3 joints are going to be rotated to curl the finger. Okay, so let's click the key button in the set-driven key editor. There you go. So now with my control, if I type in a value of 0, the finger should pop back out. If I type in a value of 5, it should curl. So if I select the name pinky curl and in the viewport middle mouse click and drag, you can see that that motion can be blended as well. It's not just a snap. So it can be blended between those joints also, or that motion also. All right, so 0 is neutral, 5 is curled. So -5, there you go, is going to be the opposite curl. So really, you can't bend your back of your fingers too much, but for a little exaggeration purpose, we're going to get a rotate, curl it back a little. May even take like the end of the finger and curl that a little, pull that one back a little and curl that. There you go. That looks somewhat believable. Might be a little exaggerated, but somewhat believable. All right, so the control for pinky curl is set to -5. And my finger is curled back the opposite way. We're going to click the key button. All right, so now with pinky curl, you can drive that back and forth between -5 curled back, 0 is default, and then 5, type 5 there. 5 is the maximum there. All right, actually I think we did 15 instead of 5, so it's allowing me to expand it past 5, so maybe we will correct this, and on 15, we're going to key that, and then back on 5, maybe we'll blend it back some. Yeah, so this is going to be a lot closer to that right there, and we'll key that again. There you go. So 5 to 15 is what we did, or -5 to 15. There you go. So -5 is curled backwards, 0 is neutral, 15 is curled all the way into the wrist, or the palm. All right, so that's how we can set this up with the rest of the fingers. I'm gonna go ahead and do the curl for the rest of the fingers, and I'll come back and I'll show you how they can work. But that's how we can set up set-driven keys. All right, so I'll pause the video, do the rest of the curls and some of the other attributes, and then I'll come back and show you how they can work. All right, I'm back. So I've gotten the rest of the controls set up except for one. I'll show you how to do multiple fingers at the same time for like the all curl. So I have a pinky curl, that one's running. A ring curl, that one's running. So these curls are doing 3 joints, the finger joints. and I'm driving that with one attribute. So there's the pointer curl, that was working. Skip over all curl, and I'll show you how to do that in here in a second. I also did a pinky twist as well, so side to side kind of rotate. Ring twist, middle, pointer twist. Okay, I did an all spread, and this is going to be done the same way for the all curl. So all 4 of these base 4 finger joints are spreading apart in a +5, or moving closer together, rotating closer together in -5. So that's an all spread over the fingers. For the thumb, I have a thumb curl, so it curls in or out. I have a thumb spread, which is in and out. And then a thumb reach, which will be reaching over to the pinky, that area. There you go. And I left out one earlier called thumb twist, so I added thumb twist in there. Since we have finger twist, we need a thumb twist as well. And then also added a carpal curl. This really makes the hand look more natural. The hand is pretty flat like this, which is all right, but what makes it look more natural is that I have more curl to the hand. So as in the pinky dips down lower than the pointer finger. So with the carpal curl, I have a positive and a negative. So I can also switch it up so my pointer's a little higher than the rest. So that's a nice addition as well. So to wrap this up, I'll show you how to do multiple finger joints and different fingers for an all curl. So I'm going to do load driver with my curve control, and I'm going to make sure I select all curl on the right. And we're doing an all curl, so we need to have all of each of the 3 finger joints. Takes a second to select. Okay. And I'm going to do load driven. Now that's going to be 3, 6, 9, 12 controls, or joints, sorry. So I'm going to select all 12 of those, and I'll make sure on the right side I select the rotates for each 3 of those. Alright, so as default, I want my all curl value to be 0, my fingers not to be curled, so let's do key. And then I'm going to change my all curl to whatever the max is, 15. And we're going to go select all of our joints. I can do that in the set driven key window. And then I'm going to get my rotate tool and try to rotate them all so that they're curled up. I will need to make some adjustments here because some of the fingers will be able to touch the skin before the others do. Got a little bit of weirdness going on here, so we'll take like those 3 and kind of rotate it out a little. There you go. All right, maybe we'll kind of make sure we have all of our knuckles together though. That would be good. Rotate it out. There you go. That looks pretty good. All right, well, maybe rotate this one in a little. Again, rotate it so it touches the palm as well. Get that one in. That one looks pretty good. Okay. All right, so we'll curl all the fingers at the same time and hit the key button. So if you remember, that attribute was at all curl 15. So now I have 0 default, and then type in 15 all curl. Okay. So let's do a -15, -15. Or -5, not -15. And then we'll select all of our joints again and rotate them backwards some. Okay, we might come in here to some individual joints and curl them back. Now this will be a little bit more exaggerated than what a natural human could. Curl them back. There you go. Alright, so most of our fingers can't curl that much. But so basically we have a negative curl backwards, and then we have a positive curl forwards. So that's how we can use one control, one attribute to drive the motion of now 12 different joints. And that can save us on a lot of time for animating. Now what's nice is that I can still do all curl somewhat, and then if I say, well, I want to pull that pinky back, I can move the middle, whatever finger it is, back some. I can move my pointer out a little, my pinky in a little more. So each one of these attributes are an additive type of control here that I can go back and refine. I can also type in 0 and everything goes back to their default. So that's how set-driven keys are created and can help automate and create a faster way to animate more complex areas of your character rig. That'll wrap up this video on set-driven keys.